folks, Emily here. For once we're in my workshop. You can tell because it's extremely messy. Let's see if you can see all that. Yeah, there's mess everywhere. But I'm at home. And so I'm using my workshop for a change. And today I am putting some finishing touches on my latest project, this thing, which I'm calling the cone toner. Cone because it's got cones at each end, and tone because it makes some wild tones. This thing started its life as a toy voice changer megaphone. This is a little bit of the case here. I pulled all the guts out of it and gave them a new home. Gave it some new switches to replace the little stock slider switches that were in there. I added a... What did I add? I added an amplifier to make it louder, and I added a potentiometer in place of one of the pitch resistors, or maybe the only pitch resistor. I don't know. This is a little bit of a weird circuit. But anyhow, this is it inside. There's not much to it. This is the stock board right here. This is the little amplifier. I got this thing for, I think 2 of them for $4 off of Amazon. The microphone. The word is microphone. The microphone is right there. And that's about it. So yeah, I didn't film any of the circuit bending really because these projects are never very linear. And that's a problem with a lot of my projects, is that I have a rough idea where I want them to go, but they never go straight from A to B. Like, they go in kind of a zigzaggy line, and there's a lot of starting and stopping, and there's a lot of like little sidetracks. And a lot of those sidetracks don't ultimately amount to anything. They don't work out. And I never know what to film. I never know how much of this stuff to put on video. Some people would probably like to see all of that, but I don't really feel like filming 2 hours of me just kind of futzing around and like fiddling and trying things and then having them not work. Fuck out of the way. It's just like frustration and poking around and more frustration. God damn it. Ah! And then trying something and like, oh, it sounds okay, but it doesn't sound exactly how I want. So I didn't film any of the circuit bending, but I am going to film the final touch here, which involves adding some lights. The original toy had this speaker grill up front, and as you can see, it has some LEDs around the rim. These LEDs were wired up so that they would come on as the speaker came on. So essentially, as like sound comes out, these kind of flash in sync with that. I like that effect, and I want to replicate it on this final product. Conveniently, the speaker I use, this is some speaker I got out of my junk bin. The speaker has 4 holes right here, and those are mounting holes, but they also happen to be just about the same size as a 5mm LED. So I'm going to put some LEDs in there and wire them up, and yeah, so let's do that. This should be pretty quick. Okay, so let's get started. Here's my handy bin of LEDs. You know, modern LEDs, they all have clear cases, which is great because they look kind of nice, but you can't tell when they get mixed up. You can't tell what they are unless you give them power. So, little trick. A lot of people probably know this trick, but for those who don't know this trick, a really easy way to check is to use a coin cell. And you want to use a coin cell because it has enough internal resistance that the current won't go too high. And you want that because if you just hook this up to, I don't know, 2 AA's, it'll burn out because LEDs need current limiting. But these batteries are nice because they have their own current limiting. So if you're working with LEDs and you're not sure what color they are, it's really handy to have one of these because then you can just put it on there. So anyhow, I'm going to check these and make sure I have 4 green ones because I think green would look good inside of the green cone. So there's 2 greens. Three greens and 4 greens. Okay, so I think the first step here is going to be to glue these things. Come on here. I think the first step is going to be to glue them into these holes here. not gonna bother like trying to 3D print anything fancy to hold them. I'm just gonna use some hot glue. And you can tell you're dealing with professional quality work when there's hot glue on everything inside. Like all in here, right? Alright, the glue gun is hot, so let's glue these LEDs in here. There's one thing about hot glue, and that's that it does not like to stick to metal sometimes, and that's a really obnoxious trait it has. I'm not sure why. I think it's because the metal acts like a heat sink and it pulls the heat away from the hot glue too quickly. Okay, I'm back. But I found out that yes, preheating metal will help the hot glue stick to it better. So I'm using my soldering iron. Yeah, this is probably, it's fine. It's fine. The soldering iron's getting the area of the speaker hot. And then the hot glue sticks much better. And I basically just leave it until the metal is too hot for me to touch, which is right now. And then pop that little LED in there. Alright, I'm gonna let those set up and then we'll get to soldering. So the plan here is to wire up all these LEDs in parallel. So I hope I'm not the only one who cannot remember which is the anode and the cathode on the LED. Like, for the life of me, I cannot remember. I suppose I need like a good mnemonic device to help me with that. And I think I just got it, because the longer leg of the LED is positive. So that's plus. So I'm going to say the longer one is plus because it's plus sized. Yeah? Does that sound good? I think that sounds good. I'm going to go with it. Solder. Helping hands. What does everyone think about helping hands? It seems to be two camps, because there's always two camps for everything, right? I know quite a few people who just don't use helping hands, and I don't quite know why, because I find them very useful. It's like when people don't use helping hands, it often seems like they're taking some kind of principled stand against it, rather than like, oh, I don't know, I just never thought about using them, or I don't know, they don't seem to work for me. It's always like, nope, I don't need those. And I don't know if that's like an old school thing, that like old school electronics people are not into them. I really don't know. But I'd be curious to hear from someone who doesn't why they don't. There are certain, you know, there's obvious disadvantages. They can be frustrating to work with. They can damage the insulation on your wires. Like, all these things are true. But like, I find that their helpfulness generally exceeds their downsides. Okay, so we have the anodes. Yes, we have the anodes hooked up. I need to find some wire for the cathodes. Okay. So there you go. It's in there. So let's put the cover back on. Close her up. Alright, and let's test her. Okay, so LEDs are in, and let's give it a try.